Hey, welcome back to Okio. In today's video, we are going to be doing some more patterns. We're going to be covering starting from the 1930s through the 1990s, taking inspiration for each one. And I did a pattern each day for the week. So I'm going to go over each pattern that I did and have some coffee, kind of like just sit back and talk about kind of what each pattern, uh, the inspiration came from and the colorways and just the kind of the overall how to make the pattern. So when I, this week, when I started, from that certain time period, because I kind of was like inspired just by different vintage items, like vintage toys or like radios and different objects. So it made me think about, okay, how can I cover 365 patterns each day, making a pattern each day? Where would the inspiration come from? So I was thinking, okay, well, let's go by decades. So that will take us all the way back to the 1520s. So this next week, going into next week, the pattern each day is going to be based off of the 1520s all of next week. Um, and then the next week will be the 1530s. And we'll go until we reach the 2020s, the 21st century. So I think it'd be a really fun to break it down in that kind of categories. So it's kind of like easier to digest. So the first set is from the 1930s, box of pastels. And then 1940s was based off of retro Dr. Pepper cooler box that I found. And 1950s is a radio. 1960s is inspired by a telephone, a yellow telephone. And the 1970s was from a clock, alarm clock, really. And then 1980s, Fisher Price play tape recorder, which you guys know if you're from the 80s. 1990s, candy filled sweet soaker. That one's probably my favorite. So we're going to start there. So here is our sweet or candy sweet soaker. And I am just first, what I always do when I first start a pattern is I make sure that I'm grabbing the colors from the object that I selected. And that is like the, challenge to get the right color palette so it actually looks good. So I kind of want a variation of the lights for the background and a variation of, the brights from the bubble gum in the candy soaker. So I'm grabbing different bubble gums here. And you just use your shape tool. If you're new to Illustrator, you just use that little square, which is like the shape tool, and you're going to hold shift to keep the square perfect. And then your eyedropper tool to select each color that you want in the object. Uh, and then it changes the color. All right, so now we have our color palette. I'm going to start off with putting a square in the center. And from here, I'm just going to kind of map it out so that we can get something that can actually transition to a pattern. So it has to like be the same kind of like all around, essentially. So once you get uh, the design that you want, you probably want to sketch it out first. That's what I would recommend is sketching it out and then placing down your pattern. I'm taking that square, I dragged it down and made sure that that was kind of like the basis of our starting point and that those shapes kind of like dragged throughout the whole entire composition of it. So we're going to take that And all of these patterns this week was like geometric, like kind of like the first pattern I did, but more intense with more shapes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, an octagon. Okay, so ultimately these shapes are making an octagon shape with that little extended square there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, rotate it, place it in each corner so that it's kind of like mirrored throughout the whole entire pattern. Um, and then, so now I have it placed in there. I'm going to paste in place and then drag it to the corner from the top. And then selecting my colors here. So I want to utilize all those colors. So they're kind of going to do the same thing. So now here we've got that octagon shape, which kind of looks like a flower. Kind of does. And then I'm going to take each color and do the same with each corner. So once again, you take your eyedropper and select the color that you want. I'm dragging the artboard. Instead of reducing the pattern down, I dragged the artboard and extended it out. So you have to go to edit artboard. And then the background color is just going to be that kind of beige color. And I'm placing that behind it. You want to make sure with the patterns that it like touches the exact edge of your shapes, because if it doesn't, and also like goes to like exactly the size of your artboard, because if it doesn't, then you're going to have a seam, a line in the center. Like it wouldn't be seamless. It wouldn't be a seamless pattern. It would have a line in between each connecting design that you did. The 1990s candy filled sweet soaker. Now we're going to roll into now we're going to the 1960s for the telephone. So I chose this retro 1960s telephone and I love the colors on it. I thought, that mustard yellow. I always love that mustard yellow. It always stands out. And it pairs nicely with the 1990s, the retro 1990s sweet soaker, which is nice. So yeah, I'm just going around the telephone trying to find where we can do it where we only have 3 colors in this one and getting a darker yellow. It's more of a minimal. We're doing a check pattern here. So once you have your colors, so once again, we're going to take our rectangle tool. I've been calling it the shape tool, but it's rectangle tool. You can also just click M and it just looks like a square. And so you can pick different shapes that you want to use, but we're going to go with another square shaped and continue that throughout the pattern. Now we're going to alternate it and we're going to take that darker one and place it, alternating it in the pattern. So that's what I'm doing. I'm selecting it and you can hold shift and select each one. Now I'm selecting the center portion of it and also putting like that beige color tone, which represents that dial area in the telephone. So now we have another pattern and that one is complete. Okay, now 1930s, the box of pastels. I selected this image of a whole bunch of like crayons and pastels, but I ultimately went with the one to the bottom right there. And as you can see, I think we're going to go with several colors here. And that's what I'm doing. I am mapping out the colors once again, starting point, got my inspiration image, my color palette. Now it's time to map out kind of how we're going to do this. So once again, I'm starting with a square in the center. My coffee's cold. I need to go. I had to fill up my cup because, yeah, I ran out. All right, so let's see, where are we at here? What color to use for the beginning of the pattern? And a lot of the times this changes when the pattern is complete. And that is something that takes time to figure out. Granted, most of this is kind of sped up and also cut and edited. So it's just really trying to find what colors work together. So now, and that's why an inspiration is very important. So now we want to take those shapes and make sure that they are touching at each endpoint. I'm making a triangle here and I want to like flip that triangle. So kind of give that geometric design with just playing with, ultimately what it is just playing with shapes and making sure that they all kind of mirror and kind of can be a seamless pattern. Um, in order to do that, you have to make sure that they're kind of, the touching points around the square can repeat. Um, and you also want to make sure, and as we, so I'm dragging that down. So I want that to be kind of the same on the other side. And it's important to like zoom in really close on these shapes because sometimes it looks like they are touching. It usually snaps to the point, the end point of the next shape, but sometimes it doesn't get it and it doesn't get it close enough. So you have to like zoom in, especially on like those triangle end points there. So now I'm selecting a different color. So I want to color all of them a different color. So it kind of gives a fun effect to it. I'm going to select all of this, trying to get it selected and rotate it. Once again, I'm going to change that color. I want it more simple right there. I'm also noticing that the color that I chose isn't like, it's not pleasing to the rest of the colors, so I kind of lightened it a bit. Um, so we're just mirroring that top section to the bottom section there. And not only is it important to get your inspiration for your color palette, it's also important to like get inspiration from patterns that you like. And then kind of play from there and map it out from there. So now I notice that I want that darker color to come back in, that, off black, because that's like the prominent color on the pastel box there. So I'm trying to bring that black in. And we're just going to drag that next element over. And mirror that next one. Not mirror. Am I? That's not mirror. Because if you're mirroring, you're flipping it, which is correct. Okay. So now I'm just dragging it to be the same, duplicating it, trying to figure out a color here. This was interesting because I to use all the colors. And now I'm going in and making sure that each corner is exactly connected. And then there's the pattern, and I feel like it represents the pastel box, and I love how that one turned out. Okay, 1940s, the retro Dr. Pepper cooler box. So this was a fun find. I don't even know if that's actually, yes, it is a cooler box because it says drinks on top. Okay. So I'm trying to find the right colors. This one was initially a little tricky finding the colors. I had to do it several times because I felt like I was pulling from the dark shadows of the cooler box, but I wanted the pattern to be overall like a lighter pastel to represent, like a mint pastel to represent the actual color of the cooler box. But it did have some of those dark shadows that I was pulling in from initially, even with that off black color. But I just felt like it was a little bit too strong and overpowering, that off black, and I wanted to just it to be ultimately just the greens. So I start with the square in the center. And I'm just going to go in and move that square on top of it. And once again, I'm trying to find, making sure all the points connect. Like, do you see how it did that? Let's get that to connect to that end point. I'm just going to go around here. I think I'm going to do like, make that a little bit bigger. Yeah, so, and if you want to keep the shape the same size and not warp it, make sure you hold that shift down. I'm placing gray ones here, and I'm kind of like stacking them on top to create like this kind of diamond looking design right there. And then I'm just going to copy it, drag it over, and rotate it so that it mirrors it on the other side. Let's make sure those points touch. And I mean, I guess if you're like making the pattern and those points don't touch, they'll just be off. But you want it to be the same on each side. So going in, adjusting that. Okay, so I did the same thing at the bottom as well. For some weird reason, at the end of this pattern, it reminds me of Minecraft, which I don't know. All the greens, I guess. It's like a lighter green. So yeah, so now I'm just adjusting it and making sure that it fits exactly at those corners we want it to touch. Now, same thing here. I want to go in and make this pattern more dynamic by adding different colors to all four corners. Adjust all those diamond areas to the different shades of mint, all four mint colors. And like I said, initially, I really did struggle with that to get the right type of mint. And I thought with that image that I wouldn't because it's like such a strong image of the Dr. Pepper cooler box. That mint is so beautiful. And I wanted to capture that, but I felt like I wasn't capturing it. Like here, like I was just like, no. So we ended up changing it. And this is kind of the colors of the greens that I picked up on. The gray is from the metal. So ultimately, let's go in and I'm taking that section there because I felt like it was too empty in the center. And we're going to make that small and put that little cross looking thing in the center. And this is what the pattern looks like. I didn't put a background on it. So that's why you see that other pattern there. But I wanted just a white background. But you can just keep it where it's just clear. And then you can change any type of background and just put your pattern on top. So there's our pattern. Okay, now 1950s, the radio. I feel like this reminds me of you would see it like on tiles or on, like I would like to get some floor tiles like that. That would be so pretty. But anyways, so yeah, so we're gonna do squares once again. We're gonna do like a diamond effect. I'm gonna drag it on all four corners. So I copy the diamonds and making sure that they all touch on each endpoint. I did have to scoot one of the diamonds over a little bit to fit into the box perfectly. So I'm scooting this little section over because it has to touch at the end points. And then I'm just coloring them, alternating them between those colors that I chose from the radio. Now let's fill the inside with some type of design. So I'm going to do kind of like, you see these things. These looks like a little flower without. And as you can see, like I kind of like drew some of my inspiration from other patterns that I already made during the week. At this point, I think we were on, I don't know what week we were on, or what, not week, what day we were on. I think we were on day 4. No, day 5. This was day 5 of my pattern. I'm kind of like getting in the flow of things here. Okay. So I'm going to create the same thing that I did on the outside. I'm bringing it into the center, but a smaller version of it. And in the center there, trying to find that center point. And now I also want to fill the inside of it with that beige color. So it kind of has more of depth and a dynamic kind of look to it. So it's not too bland. And then I'm just going to add these little squares. I was initially going to do diamond, but I just decided to put a square. Now let's put our background, and I think we're going to do just that light gray, which is kind of, we'll just need to group the patterns and group it all. It'll have like the diamonds doubled. So we're going to create a shape on top of it, and we're going to mask it and then make sure that it touches to the corners, put it in the grid. That's what the pattern looks like for that radio. Next is the 1970s clock. Okay, this is, looks like an alarm clock. Okay. So cute. I wonder if that thing is really little. Looks little. All right, so now we're going in and we are selecting the colors. So we're in the 1970s. Trying to get that gold color, which was turning like, I mean, it is kind of like green when you select it. And we will start with that rectangle shape tool. And we're mapping out all four corners. Looks like a little flower. And then I wanted to do like a little triangle design that connects it all, kind of brings more depth into it once again with that darker tone. Here we go. So I'm going to do that to make that the same, mirror it. And now I'm doing like this, like taking those triangles and just, I want to fill it around the outside of it. But I want to make sure that both those triangles touch. So I didn't really get it that first time. So we could have done like one larger triangle, one smaller triangle, but I don't want it to be too complex. So let's just keep them the same size. Now we're going to duplicate that all around the squares. Okay. Flipping it, making sure that all the points touch. I initially was going to keep it there. All right, so that was our pattern. Okay, I guess I didn't change it. Okay, so that's the 1970s watch. It has that darker center, and then it has the gold and the browns on the outside. And yeah, okay. Now we're going to move in to, boop. Now we're going to move into the 1980s Fisher-Price play tape recorder. So at the end, this was like at the end of the week, this was like my last pattern. And I really wanted to take one of the patterns that I already created and kind of do a play off of it. So I took the center of, I believe it was the 1990s pattern, placed it in the center, and then I kind of wanted to like just expand out and do something from there. So I'm grabbing the different colors. I love the colors on the Fisher-Price. Okay, brings back memories. And then I added that dark color, which is the cassette. Kept it in the center, and then I put the background of the beige behind it, making sure all points touch. Okay, looking good, looking good. And then I just put like 4 squares around, which is all the colors. And then I'm making the pattern, and that's what the pattern looks like, which to me looks like the 80s. Okay, to me it does. That's just me. All right, so now here is a really good thing to know when you're making patterns. So because a lot of the times when you make a pattern, you have to scale it down or scale it up. When you already have made your pattern, you're going to take your rectangle tool, fill the pattern. So you're going to select your swatch. It'll fill the pattern. And as you can see, this is not filled correctly. It's not scaled correctly. So you're going to go to Object, Transform, in scale. Once you have that open, your settings on the scale panel should have selected non-uniform and scale strokes and effects and transform patterns. You don't want selected transform objects because it will like mess, it won't scale just the pattern down. And then you're going to put the percentage of whatever you want it to scale to and push OK. So that tool is super handy. And here's all of the years for this week and all the patterns with the color palettes. And I have a few favorites in there that I'm really happy with. And it was a lot of fun. This week was a compilation of like several different time periods, which that's what inspired going into different decades. Well, I'm going to end the video here, and I hope that you guys enjoyed that, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.